Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Hi, I'm Jeff Frank, the minister of St. Paul's Universalist Church in Little Falls, New York, and I'm recording this from my inner sanctum here at home, my home office. In modern Unitarian Universalism, we honor many different religious perspectives, but our origins are in the Judeo-Christian tradition. What separated old-style Universalism from other denominations was this idea that God's love was so all-encompassing that no one went to hell, at least not for all time. And this was a love that you could do nothing to earn. It was freely given by our Creator. And we, in turn, were called to share that love with our neighbors. Who are our neighbors? We're told that we need to love them as much as we love ourselves. That's very prominent in the Old Testament or the Jewish scriptures and the New Testament. Loving our neighbors means looking out for one another, showing mercy and forgiveness, and seeking justice and equality for one another. Granted, a lot of that is easier said than done. But as God did it for us, we in turn are asked to do it for others. And we see this in the Jewish scriptures, the Torah. In the 19th chapter of the book of Leviticus, verse 1, it says, "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus referenced this passage in the Gospel of Luke when he told one of my favorite parables to illustrate what it meant to be a good neighbor. This is from the 10th chapter of the Gospel of Luke. Just then, a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life. He said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read there?" The lawyer answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said to him, "You have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live." But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said, "Go and do likewise." If you don't know a lot about first century Palestine or that region of the world, it can be easy to kind of lose what Jesus was getting at in the story of the Good Samaritan. Priests and Levites were held in high regard by the people Jesus was speaking to. In contrast, the Samaritan was considered someone to be avoided, an outcast, a bad seed. To kind of modernize the tale, imagine it was, a priest that walked by the man left for dead, and then a minister, and then an atheist comes along, or a pagan, or an ex-con, someone that you wouldn't expect to do the right thing. That's what the Samaritan was. And I think that's where Jesus was going with that, was the idea that, it's not a special type of person that's required to be a good neighbor. And people that you might think would automatically be good neighbors, their fancy titles or degrees or whatnot, doesn't automatically qualify them as good neighbors. The other thing to note is that we, in the story, know nothing about the man who is set upon by robbers, other than the fact that he is beaten, robbed, left for dead, and is in need. He will die if not tended to. And that's, I think, another thing. The part of the beauty of that parable is, Jesus is not only saying that the neighbor who shows love and mercy, is someone who you wouldn't necessarily think of. He also doesn't qualify what it means, as far as the other person. There's no special qualification. If you see your fellow human being in need, be a good neighbor. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's the gist of it. And that's that undercurrent of love told in a very simple but powerful story. The underlying message found in the Torah, which also makes up part of the Old Testament, and continues on into the Gospels, the four accounts of the life of Jesus and his ministry, continues on throughout the New Testament. And it can be found, perhaps summed up best, in these words written by the Apostle Paul in his first letter to the church at Corinth. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now, we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. And the greatest of these is love. In other words, if you can do all these amazing things, but you don't have love, you don't come from a source of love, you don't do it through the lens of love, it's meaningless. Love is the foundation upon which we build. It's something that is given to us freely, and which in turn we are called to share with our neighbors. And who are our neighbors? Everyone. Everyone is our neighbor.